Hey there, my fishing friends, and welcome back to the channel. Your old buddy is here, ready to dive deep into what promises to be an absolutely phenomenal day on the water. Today, we're talking about the 12th of November, 2025. And let me tell you, Florida is setting up for something special. The cooling temperatures are doing their magic, shifting fish patterns, and if you know where to look and what to throw, you could be in for some truly unforgettable action. Stick with me, because I've got all the insider info straight from the latest data to make your next trip a roaring success. You won't believe the opportunities this mid-November day holds. First up, let's talk about the kings of the flats, redfish, or as many of us call them, red drum. My friends, November is prime time for these hard fighters, especially those big bull reds. They're going to be pushing into the passes and estuaries, looking for a meal before their spawning activities wind down. Where to look? Focus on the shallows, especially around oyster bars, grass flats, and mangrove edges in areas like Crystal River or New Smyrna Beach. As the water cools into the low 70s Fahrenheit, these fish will be aggressively foraging. Look for tailing reds in skinny water during incoming tides. That's a surefire sign they're feeding. What to catch them with? A classic setup. A medium-heavy spinning rod with 20 to 30-pound braided line. For lures, consider a weedless spoon, soft plastic paddle tails on a quarter-ounce jig head, or even a gold-colored miradyne. If you prefer live bait, a live pilchard, pinfish, or shrimp under a popping cork will be irresistible. Remember, they're not shy, but presentation is key. Next, we have our beloved spotted sea trout, often called speckled trout. These guys are fantastic for consistent action and make for excellent table fare. Where to look? As the water temperatures settle into the upper 60s to low 70s Fahrenheit, the sea trout move en masse onto shallow grass flats. Target those grassy potholes, the edges of oyster bars, and deeper channels adjacent to the flats. Places like Steinhatchee or Jacksonville Beach are legendary for their full trout bite. What to catch them with? A lighter spinning rod, say 10 to 15-pound braid, is perfect for casting soft plastic jerkbaits or paddle tails. A mirror lure or topwater plug in the early morning or late evening can also produce explosive strikes. For bait, live shrimp, free-lined, or under a small popping cork is almost always a winner. Now for a true Florida icon, the mighty snook. These powerful fish are incredibly fun to catch and will test your tackle and your skills. Where to look? Snook are sensitive to temperature, so they'll be seeking out warmer, more stable water. Look for them around structure, docks, bridges, jetties, and especially in areas with good tidal flow, like around spillways and inlets. In mid-November, with average water temperatures in the low to mid-70s Fahrenheit, they'll be active in many inshore areas. What to catch them with? You'll want a strong medium-heavy rod and reel, spooled with 30 to 50-pound braid, large swim baits, jerk baits, or even a big DOA. Terra eyes are great artificial options. For live bait, nothing beats a finger mullet or a good-sized pilchard. Cast accurately near structure and be ready for an instant fight. Finally, let's head to the freshwater for the legendary largemouth bass, Florida's official freshwater fish. Where to look? In November, as the air temperatures are pleasant, the bass will be active in their typical haunts. Focus on hydrilla beds, lily pads, submerged timber, and deep water edges in larger lakes and rivers across the state. They'll be feeding heavily before any real cold fronts might arrive. What to catch them with? Standard bass tackle works well. Think spinnerbaits, chatterbaits, and soft plastic worms fished around cover. If you're feeling adventurous, try a topwater frog early in the morning in thick vegetation. Live shiners are always a prime choice for big bass. All right, let's break down the conditions for November 12th, 2025, here in beautiful Florida. The weather. We're looking at typical, pleasant mid-November conditions. Expect daytime temperatures to be comfortably warm, ranging from the low 70s to the mid-70s Fahrenheit, around 22 to 25 degrees Celsius. Nights will cool down to the low to mid-60s, Fahrenheit 13 to 18 degrees Celsius. Wind will be light to moderate, around 10 to 15 kilometers per hour, likely from the east or northeast. Rainfall will be minimal, as we're well into the dry season, so don't expect any major washouts. Atmospheric pressure should be generally stable, which is always a good sign for fishing. These stable conditions, combined with the cooling trend, often trigger aggressive feeding. Water temperature. The ocean and inshore waters will be in that sweet spot, generally in the low to mid-70s Fahrenheit across much of the state, perhaps a bit warmer in the far south. For example, Miami Beach might see waters around 79 degrees Fahrenheit. This temperature range is fantastic because it's cool enough to get many species active and migrating, but still warm enough to keep them feeding vigorously. It's not too hot to make them sluggish, and not yet cold enough to send them deep into winter patterns. Moon phase. On November 12th, 2025, we'll be in the last quarter phase of the moon. Now many anglers swear by the moon's influence, and while it's not the only factor, a last quarter moon is often associated with stronger tidal movements around the quarter moons. This increased water movement can concentrate bait fish and make game fish more active, especially around tide changes, so pay attention to those tide charts. Overall fish activity. Considering all these factors, friends, the general activity of fish in Florida on this day looks promising. The cooling waters are pushing many inshore species into their fall feeding frenzies. Redfish, seatrout, and snook will be actively hunting in the shallows and around structure. Offshore, species like sailfish and wahoo will also be on the move. We're past the peak summer heat and before the coldest winter fronts, making this a prime transitional period. So, my friends, based on all these juicy details, I'm giving the overall fishing potential for the 12th of November 2025 in Florida a solid, good to excellent rating. The stable, mild weather, perfectly cooling water temperatures, and the added push from the last quarter moon's tides create an ideal scenario for a fantastic day of angling. The fish will be active, feeding, and ready to bite, especially if you target them in the right places with the right presentation. There you have it, fellow anglers, a detailed forecast to help you make the most of November 12th. I truly hope this helps you land that fish of a lifetime. Remember, stay safe out there, respect our waters, and have an absolute blast. If you found this forecast helpful, please do me a huge favor, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on future forecasts and tips. And now, for you, my friends, what are your plans for fishing this week? What's your go-to lure or bait when the water starts cooling down in the fall? Drop a comment below and share your wisdom with the community. I love hearing from all of you. Until next time, tight lines and good fishing.